to make sure that, you know, to get the best optimum conditions in the centre, because they've got the technical team in the centre, in the office.
Okay.
And so they could, not that it would have been a suffering to go over to Reptiles and hang out with her. I don't know whether they let Geshe stay in his room, because I don't think he's left his room in this time. Obviously, loud.
That's weird. Why is it not picking it up?
Searching, everything plugged in. Is everything in? Everything in?
Wiggle
Here it's plugged in.
just wiggle it. Sometimes it just, when you touch it, maybe it's not. Sometimes it's just that, and that join.
Yeah, it keeps going back between those signal and searching. Presuming maintenance.
It seems like my computer is not picking up. Oh, maybe now it is.
Yes, so just wiggle the cord.
Yes. There you go.
There it goes. Okay.
Rest mentorship.
All right, and just make sure that Jason is allowed to record. All right, let's start. Apologies for being late. We had some technical difficulties, but yeah, she worked it all out. At least I remembered your name. Obeisance to my Guru and protecting my true shoe, holds as its heart to scriptural text and God upon seeing all things in its way. His understanding shone forth as the sun, unclouded by the defilements or traces. With the patience of love and mortal all creatures caught in the prison of samsara, confusing the darkness of their ignorance of the world by their suffering.
You, who strive in hard proclamation of the Dhamma, arises us from the purified delusions and frees us from the iron chains of our karma, whose powerful sword of wisdom hews down suffering wherever its sprouts appear,
clearing away the darkness of all ignorance.
I entreat you, O Manjushri, whose princely body is adorned with 112 marks of a Buddha, who has completed the 10 stages achieving the highest perfection of a Bodhisattva, who has been pure from the beginning. O Manjushri, O loving one, with the brilliance of your wisdom illuminate the darkness enclosed in my heart, enlighten my intelligence and wisdom so that I may gain insight into Buddha's words and the texts that explain them. I go for refuge
until I'm enlightened
to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the highest assembly. From the accumulations that I collect by listening to the teachings, may I attain the state of a Buddha to be able to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge
until I'm enlightened
to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the highest assembly. From the accumulations that I collect by listening to the teachings, may I attain the state of a Buddha
to be able to benefit all sentient beings.
I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the highest assembly.
From the accumulations that I collect by listening to the teachings, may I attain the state of a Buddha to be able to benefit all sentient beings. It's okay. I understand.
Fully.
Fully. Well, not fully. I mean, after all, I'm not a Buddha, but all right.
On a conventional level.
On a conventional level, I understand you yawning.
I thought you were on.
I thought that you're on. Let's see.
No.
Allowed to record. Maybe I allowed someone else to record.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so yes, sorry. Today we covered the section that says that in brief we should respect sentient beings as well. There are a couple of points left off from yesterday which I wanted to go over, and then look mainly at verse 126, as there is quite a lot to be said with respect to verse 126, and then to look at the benefits of cultivating patience, just to have a brief summary of that. So first thing first, I wanted to, actually let's look, looking at the outline. As I said yesterday, it says, one should have, due to faith in the teacher, one should have respect for sentient beings. So the premise for the discussion was showing respect and cherishing other beings is identified as the principal method for repaying the kindness of Buddhas in light of what they have done. And then establishing that can be understood in Tibetan as either proving it through reasons, or you can also say that it is related to the verse for practicing it. So in some sense, you can say that because the principal method of repaying the kindness of Buddhas is to show respect and cherish other beings, this is what you need to put into practice. So that's one way of understanding it. Another way of understanding it is just those reasons that are presented below that gives us the reason for showing respect and cherishing other beings, which is identified as the principal method for repaying the kindness of Buddhas. But I think that actually, when you look at what Shantideva says, the first mode of interpretation, the one that I mentioned first, is more like giving you what you need to practice. Those are the things that you need to practice, is a better way of understanding that. So what are the points that I drew up in that section? So first of all, it says, one should be patient with harm done by sentient beings in verse 120. Then verse 121, abandoning conceit one feels in relation to other beings. So those are the things that we should do, right? So we should be patient with harm done by sentient beings. So in looking at verse 120, because benefiting them will repay those who give their holy bodies and enter relentless torment or the unrelenting hell. Therefore, even if they cause me great harm, I shall behave impeccably in all. So how do we work it out into one cohesive, let's say, try to work it out in a cohesive way as instruction for practice for us. Shantideva here is giving us personal instruction for practice. So he says, the principal method for repaying the kindness of Buddhas is repaying the kindness of sentient beings. That's in general. How do we do that? The first point is, since Buddhas work for the sake of sentient beings, even give away or give up their own body, even go to hellish states of existence, therefore, even when sentient beings harm me, I shall still behave impeccably with them. That's the first instruction for practice. So in my tutorial notes, I summarize it in this way. I shall behave impeccably even with those who harm me, because benefiting them will repay Buddhas who have given up everything, including the bodies, for the sake of sentient beings. That's verse 120. Verse 121 says, I should not act ignorantly, or as Khenpo Kumpen says, we're sometimes being inept. We act stupidly in harming sentient beings. So we don't want to do that. We don't want to behave ignorantly and conceitedly with sentient beings, because those who are my lords give away the bodies for their sake, for the sake of sentient beings. So verse 121 read, because those who are my lords for the time being disregard even their own bodies then why does the confused I act proud and not behave with the attribute of a servant towards them? So we spoke yesterday about the sense of pride. Of course, anger and ignorance that arise in our mind when we're being harmed, but also we sometimes act with pride, thinking how dare they do this to me? And we also, with a sense of conceit, think that it is permissible for us to harm other living beings. So here Shantideva is saying that when you look at how Buddhas given away, have given up even their own body for the sake of others, why would it be permissible for us to harm others? It's like we act conceitedly, we become proud, thinking that even though a Buddha has acted, they were careless with the body, in a sense that they even gave away their own body for the sake of others. How come we feel above that and we act in harming others? Geshe-la told that story yesterday from the previous life of the Buddha feeding a hungry tigress. There are different versions of this story.
Yeah, when he said 9 cubs, I thought 5, because I thought they became the 5 first disciples of the Buddha.
Yeah, there are different versions of the story.
Yeah.
I think that once I had a version that the Buddha himself was a hungry tigress.
There you go.
So there are different versions, but I think that,
Anyway, we get this.
Yeah, the point is that, before becoming a Buddha, Bodhisattva is willing to even give away their own body for the sake of caring for others, saving others, treating others, and so forth. So from our point of view, we are a bit haughty or proud in thinking that even though a Buddha has done that before, we are above that. We can harm other living beings. So it seems that this is the point that is made here. So to go back to the tutorial notes, it says, sorry. Just a second. So I should not act ignorantly and conceitedly with sentient beings, because those who are my lords give away their own bodies for their sake. This is what we covered yesterday. The third point for practice that Shantideva points out is I should benefit sentient beings because it pleases Buddhas when I make everyone, including harm doers, happy, and it will displease the Buddhas if I make them unhappy. So that's in verse, I think, 122. Verse 122.
Yeah. Well, according to the commentary.
Yeah. So it says, because of their happiness, the munis will be pleased. But if they are harmed, they will be displeased. By making them happy, I shall delight the munis, and by harming them, I shall harm the munis. So again, it's all coming under the heading of to repay the kindness of the Buddhas is to be kind to sentient beings, to please sentient beings. Now, to please them means to make them happy rather than being a people pleaser. I think a point that someone asked yesterday. So, making them happy. And the principal way of making sentient beings happy at the end would be to teach them the Dhamma. But at least here, at the very least, we should abstain from harming sentient beings. So that's the third point for practice that Shantideva points out. And the fourth one, sorry. Were the munis? The munis is an epithet of the Buddha. So sometimes the term muni, which is a term in Sanskrit, is translated as the sage. In Tibetan, it was translated as the able one that has capabilities. Able. They have capabilities. So the sage, the capable, or the muni. I think that sometimes just skipping it in Indian language sometimes works. So, what am I on about? I'm on about this. Now, the fourth point for practice is I should do so because even if I venerate the Buddhas with body, speech, and mind, they will still be displeased if sentient beings are harmed. which is the really important point. We might be totally respectful, venerating the Buddha, making offerings and so forth, but also since the Guru is Buddha, we also are very respectful to our teachers. We see them as Buddhas. But then if we think that, no, if we revere them, make offering to them, if we think that I'm the student to follow them, then we should also be kind to other living beings. I think that we had it before. It was an interesting point before because, over the years at Chenrezig Institute, we have, sometimes we have disagreements when we work with each other.
No.
Yeah, it happens. It sounds fanciful, but it does happen that we have disagreements. So, and particularly when, sometimes you get an advice from someone like Lama Zopa Rinpoche. Now, Lama Zopa Rinpoche is like an unending source of advice and projects, things that people should do, build better, bigger, better, more extensive, do it, so it gives different advice, sometimes to different people at different time. Sometimes the advice is very specific to a certain person. So then when you look at all the advice that Lama Zopa gives, and you try to put it together into a cohesive plan on how we should move forward as a community, of course, people pull to different directions because sometimes they hear advice that was given to them, it was given in a certain time, it was important for the particular context, but you still need to create cohesive plan. It's not easy. So then I remember that there were situations where people got really indignant, got really upset or angry that this is what Lama Zopa Rinpoche does and this is what we need to be doing. And if we're not going to do it, we're just going to disrespect Lama Zopa Rinpoche and, and blah, 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 ignore the advice and so on. And then someone pointed out, I think that it was either Geshe Jiaming or maybe someone else, they said that actually when we're getting angry over things like that, we're disobeying Lama Zopa Rinpoche's advice in the sense that if you think of what makes Lama Zopa Rinpoche happy, it's a healthy community, happy community, harmonious community. So of course we can contribute to a certain discussion, but when then we start to pick up fights with each other, that's displeasing to the Buddhas, that's displeasing to our gurus. So in that sense, I wanted to tie it up to what is stated here. I should do so because if I venerate the Buddhas with body, speech, and mind, they would still be displeased if sentient beings are harmed. So let's just read through verse 123. I believe that was verse 123. So just as anything desirable would give my mind no pleasure if my body was ablaze with fire. That's a very potent analogy. Likewise, when sentient beings are harmed, there is no way for the great compassionate ones to be pleased. Right? So either when we're harming them, again here, this is the chapter of patience. So if we harm other sentient beings, so we just get angry with each other, with other living beings, with our family members and so forth. It's always good to think that my teacher, the Buddha, the one that I trust, Bodhisattvas and so forth, they would be displeased with me.
Okay, so just as desirable sense objects would give my mind no pleasure.
Yeah, kind of imagine that, for example, your house is on fire and you're about to be engulfed in flames, and you're still sitting on a kitchen bench and having a chocolate cake. Now, so it's not going to be delicious if your body is going to catch fire.
I see. That's okay. Yeah, so
leave the flake behind.
I've got to leave the flake behind if the house is on fire. I get it.
Just enough with the chocolate cakes. That's it.
I get it. Thank you.
All right, Jason.
I was going to say, it almost seems that when we harm others, we're harming the Buddhas. Not that we're actually harming the Buddhas, but because the Buddha is omniscient and they pervade all compound phenomena. They're sort of present when I get upset with my dad or something like that. They're always present there. So, in a sense, it seems logical too that if we don't see it that way, we're going to keep creating negative karma. But if we try to see it in the way that, oh, the Buddhas are actually like, oh, Zoka is potentially watching me now. You know, his presence is here. How would this be pleasing? I think most people would say no. It wouldn't be pleasing.
Well, yeah. No, if we keep in mind that, you know, the Buddha's mind is all pervasive.
Yeah.
And also, and this is connected with verse 126, but we can start with that now. We can think of the Buddha's mind being all pervasive. And the Buddha has a combination of body and mind, a unification of body and mind. So wherever the Buddha's mind is, there you will also find the body of Buddha.
Yeah.
So if a Buddha is an omniscient being, if we develop the mental attitude that a teacher is Buddha, then a teacher's mind is also omniscient, and therefore you could say that therefore Lama Zopa Rinpoche knows what's happening here. Although, you know, we don't see Lama Zopa Rinpoche, but if you do develop the mental attitude that he is Buddha, then you should also think that therefore he sees what I do, and I should have a sense of embarrassment, shame and embarrassment, which is, from a Buddhist perspective, the abstention of negative actions, either on account of myself or on account of my teacher. You know, that's embarrassment. Abstaining from negative actions on account of others. So that's a powerful way of abstaining from negative actions. You know, when you're about to lash out or to respond to something with anger or to do something that is inappropriate, you can think, well, how would it be like to be physically present in the room of my teacher? You know, would I be behaving in such a way? You know, so suppose there's, you know, sometimes I do coordination with Siddha Rinpoche, right? So, you know, sometimes I try to imagine those situations. You know, if I had, you know, I try to imagine the situations where they had like a really heated argument that was full of something of spite or anger. Would it know if I know that I'm in Siddha Rinpoche's room and it's sitting just in front of me? Would I say the same thing to the person next to me, kind of with that mind that is full of hatred and spite and anger and so forth? No, I wouldn't do that, of course. So it's helpful to think that even though I don't see them, they see me. They're here.
And it's also very good, if you don't know what you should be doing or what you should be doing, you just need to think of your guru and bring them in your mind and sit them there and ask a few questions, and you will quickly get the answer.
Yeah. Will they, or, you know, you think of whether you should do something. Sometimes it's helpful to think, will they tell me to do it, or will they be happy if I did that? You know, if you have that sense that maybe it's not the right thing to do, then you can think, well, if I asked him, what would he say?
Yeah.
If I asked them, what would they say? Sometimes the answer would come up naturally. Not always, but sometimes.
Yeah. Often it does. Often it does. I think, you know, that's when, if you're prepared to listen to your own inner Buddha nature, you know, it's your own wisdom, the right answer does come up. Sometimes you might have to wait a bit.
Yeah.
Might not come up right away.
So then we looked at verses 120 to 123. Then verses 124 and 125 are confessing previous displeasing actions and refraining from allowing negativities to arise in the future. So I think that they're quite straightforward. Let's just read through them. There is one point that I wanted to pull out from that. So it says, due to having harmed sentient beings, I have displeased the great compassionate ones. Therefore, today I confess individually all my negativities. I request your forgiveness, Munis, for this displeasure I have caused. From now on, in order to delight the Tathagatas, I should be subdued and be a servant to the world. Although many beings may kick and smash my head or kill me, that's very graphic, isn't it?
It is.
I shall not retaliate, and may I delight in the protectors of the world. So if you think of verses 124 and 125, you can apply the four remedial powers, the four powers of the antidote to this verse. So how do you do it? What's the power of support? The power of the basis.
Reliance on the Buddhas and then reliance on sentient beings.
Well, it says
reliance on the objects of refuge.
So let's look at verse 124. So it says, due to having harmed my great being. So it seems that this is the power of regret. I have displeased the great compassionate one. That's the power of regret. Therefore, today I confess individually all my negativities. I request your forgiveness, Monis, for this displeasure I have caused. So it says that the beings that are found explicitly in our confession are the Monis, the Buddhas. Yeah. That's the first power of support. But sometimes when a general power of support is explained, it is said that for the power of support, you use refuge and bodhicitta. So you use refuge in that you think of the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. And we have created negativities in relation to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. So you bring them on to the power of support. And you also generate bodhicitta because we have harmed other sentient beings. So negativities that we have done in relation to other sentient beings, we can purify through relying on bodhicitta. So sometimes it is explained like that. But here it is explained in an interesting way. It ties those two things together, sentient beings and Buddhas. So since we harmed other sentient beings, you can say that we've harmed the Buddha. I think that it's similar to what you said, Jason. Or since we harmed other sentient beings, we've displeased the Buddha. Now, to harm a Buddha or to displease a Buddha would mean that we've caused, it's not that we've caused pain to the mind of Buddha, but I guess that when Buddhas see us behaving in a certain way, they think, alas, no.
Well, because it's against what the advice is of the Buddha.
This is not what I want. This is not what I wish.
Is it also too it's not, they don't actually develop pain or that we've done. But it's almost like they recognize in an abstract way that we've sort of harmed ourselves, like our full potential or something. That would probably be quite upset or wants to free or something things, and then we go against that sort of.
Yeah, so it's not that we cause pain, it's actual pain, sensation of pain to the mind of Buddha, but since we're acting in a way that does not accord with the Buddha's wish, with the Buddha's intent for sentient beings, when when a Buddha nature is still enveloped by sense and so forth, it's not what the Buddha wants, it's not what they wish for. So here we tie together it seems that in the power of regret, harming sentient beings, we also displease the great compassionate ones. Therefore, we confess all our negativities and request the forgiveness of the Buddhas, but we can also say that because we acknowledge here that we've harmed other sentient beings, we can also include sentient beings also in there. So then we have the power of restraint. From now on, in order to delight the Tathagatas, I should be subdued and be a servant to the world. Although many beings may kick and smash my head or kill me, I shall not retaliate. And I delight in the protectors of the world. So it seems that my delight in the protectors of the world, I would kind of link it up with the power of the antidote, thorough application of the antidote. Remember that we said in the antidote, any antidote that you apply to your unafflicted states of mind is the thorough application of the antidote. Often it says that when you do prostration, circumambulation, mantra recitation, meditation on bodhicitta, emptiness, and so forth, it is a power of thorough application of the antidote. But if you remember what we have discussed, I think that it was in chapter number 2 when we spoke about the practice of purification using the 4 powers, we said that here the explanation of the power of the antidote was any antidote that we apply to our afflictions, to our obscurations, to our negativities and so forth. That is any practice that we do, which is a remedial power to the antidote, is a thorough application of the antidote. So here it says that I shall delight in the protectors. So delighting in the Buddha, I think that you can understand that as delighting in the deeds of the Buddha, delighting in the teachings of the Buddha, delighting in the practice of the teachings of the Buddha. Maybe it's a stretch, but
I don't think so, because it's also, as Geshe said this morning, looking at what a Buddha is, Sangye, having eliminated all the faults and returned. So if you look at it as that you're applying the antidote to eliminate the faults, to follow the Buddha's footsteps, because you want to delight them, but you also want to attain that yourself.
Yeah.
So you recognise that.
What was between regret and restraint?
sorry?
Between regret and restraint.
So regret is you regret.
No,
what's between the
sorry.
Like in those verses.
In those verses.
Lines 3 and 4. So therefore today I confess and feel and I request your forgiveness.
So I would say that this is regret.
So all
this
four lines there, all that verse.
Well, no. So here is, so in this one is, in the first verse, I said that this is the, probably, I would say, regret.
Regret, so I mean 4 lines,
And also you can say for these displeasures that I've caused, that's also affiliated with the regret. The power of support here is the Munis, the Buddhas.
The Buddhas, yeah.
But also you can say that indirectly we also have sentient beings, because we acknowledge that we have harmed sentient beings. So then it indicates that you can say that, therefore, in the power of the support, we can include refuge and bodhicitta. That's like in an indirect way. So then the power of restraint. From now on, so restraint, we think that henceforth I should not do it again. So from now on, in order to delight the Tathagatas, I should be subdued and be a servant to the world. Although many beings may kick and smash my head or kill me, I should not retaliate, and might delight in the protectors of the world. Okay, so that brings us to verse 126. There is no doubt that those with the nature of compassion regard all these migrating beings as themselves. These very ones seen in the entities of sentient beings are the protectors themselves. Why then do they not respect them? This is the verse 126. Let's just remind ourselves where in the outline comes. So it's the second point in the section that explains that due to faith in the teacher, one should have respect for sentient beings. Point B is drawing a conclusion in saying that thus this shows in brief that we should respect sentient beings as well. So when it says that this shows in brief, Khenpo Kulpen in his commentary actually goes to a greater extent and explains that it is a really beautiful explanation. So I thought of drawing some points from Khenpo Kulpen's presentation. But before we do that, there is what we find in the abridged commentary by Gyatso Dhammarinchen. So it says, there is no doubt that all these migrators are regarded by the Buddhas that possess compassion as self, a way of meditating and equalizing and exchanging self with others. So Geshe mentioned that in the morning. So we will speak about equalizing and exchanging self with others when we will look at the 8th chapter, right? So the 8th chapter in Shantideva's text teaches it teaches the perfection of absorption, and the main bulk of the chapter is teaching how to equalize self with others and how to exchange self with others. So Buddhas equalize and exchange self with others, which means that before they were Buddhas, at the time of being Bodhisattvas, of the main practices for developing bodhicitta was equalizing and exchanging self with others. So you can say that at the time before becoming a Buddha, because that was what they have practiced for such a long extent, 3 great countless eons, of when they also become Buddhas, of course they see themselves as others or others as themselves. And there's a particular way of understanding that, because in the exchange for self with others, it's not that we think that I'm others and others I myself. It's not that we exchange a self physically in that sense. We speak about it from the viewpoint of exchanging a self-cherishing attitude with an attitude that cherishes other sentient beings. Considering other sentient beings' welfare to be therefore more important than my own happiness and welfare. But then here in this section of the text, there is another application of seeing other sentient beings. So Buddhas see other sentient beings as themselves. So let's look at again at this commentary. It says, there's no doubt that all these migrators are regarded as the Buddhas that possess compassion as self by way of meditating on equalizing and exchanging self with others. Hence, those seen in the identity of sentient beings are in the very nature of the protector. And respecting them gives enlightenment. Therefore, why not be respectful? It is appropriate to have faith and be respectful. So that's the abridged explanation. Let's look at the more extensive one that I summarized from Khenpo Kunpen's presentation. So he begins his explanation with a really nice explanation of how Buddhas regard other sentient beings. That's found in page 228. So it says, there is no doubt at the bottom of the page, there is no doubt that the lords of great compassion consider all wandering beings without exceptions as their very self. It's just as when the Buddha took to himself the swan. So there's an explanation of, or a reference to an account from the life story of the Buddha. It says that he considered all beings in general as his fathers and mothers, but more specifically, he looked upon all those older than himself as his parents, all those who were his age as his brothers and sisters, and all those who were younger than him as his sons and daughters. It's actually quite a nice way of also considering people around us, isn't it? When you think of just useful advice that we can draw from teachings like that in terms of mind training practices, if we are able to train our mind in looking at people around us, in our close surrounding, not only in a family, but in a place of work, in our community, other places, if the person who's older to you is just like your mother and father, you wouldn't speak badly to your mother and father, though we do sometimes.
Yeah.
We do sometimes, but we try not to. You consider other people that of your age to be like brothers and sisters. So though we have people of different age in this community, you consider at least in terms of being able to relate to each other, having similar interests, we can say that we're like brothers and sisters. We're more like brothers and sisters here. Sorry?
We are family.
We are family.
That's what Lama Yeshe was always family.
Yeah. So you can look at people that are really senior in your community to be like your mothers and fathers. The forefathers of the organization, like your mother and fathers. Definitely, if you're then, you can consider your fellow members of the ordained community, like your brothers and sisters, monks and nuns, and the youngest to be like your children. Anyway, it was thus looked upon, says that he took them all to himself. When he was traversing the paths of accumulation and preparation, he regarded them as himself through the process of equalizing, exchanging self with others. This is what Getze Domination said. So again, with equalizing, exchanging self with others, we exchange a self-cherishing attitude with an attitude of cherishing others. One of the practical ways of doing that, and we will cover that later on, is to put yourself in other sentient beings' shoes. And then to look at yourself back when you're observing yourself from another person's perspective. So in that sense, you can say that on the path of accumulation and the path of preparation, the Buddha put himself in the shoes of somebody else, other living beings, and then therefore the Buddha became others. The Buddha others became the very self of the Buddha. Olaf is saying, the Dhammakaya has no love or hate, or how can the Buddhas be displeased with us? How can we reconcile this? So the Dhammakaya has no love or hate. I would say that first of all, the Dhammakaya has two types of Dhammakaya. There is the exalted knowledge Dhammakaya and the essence Kaya. So the essence Kaya, which is uncompounded, it is the emptiness of the mind, that indeed has no love or hate. That's just a permanent phenomenon, the emptiness of a Buddha's mind. Now, when you look at the exalted knowledge Dhammakaya, there's no love or hate from the perspective of not having attachment to some and aversion to others, not liking those that are related to you, those that benefit you, and disliking those who give you harm. The Buddha's mind is equanimous, loving everyone in the same way. So you can say that in the Dhamma, from that perspective, I think that you can say that in the Dhammakaya, there's only love and no hate.
Yes.
There's no love or hate of a biased or partial attitude. So how can the Buddha be displeased with us? How can we reconcile this? So the Buddha's being displeased with us, it's not like hating us or being fed up with us or kind of looking down on us as being stupid. It's more like being displeased with us as being displeased with what we do.
I think there was one example, I think Dachin was probably there when in Bendigo last time, and somebody asked something about anger, right? It was an older student. And Rinpoche's response was about dealing with anger. Anyway, so Rinpoche's response was, well, the thing that makes me angry, I think it was for the individual, is when the student doesn't follow the advice that I've given many times.
Yes, which I have said many, many times, I know. I remember that question.
Somebody got that, right?
Yeah.
Because you heard Rinpoche say, makes me angry. You think Rinpoche's angry, but you know, that ruffle aspect to say, which is, I think, in line with this here.
But it's actually quite
Pointing
nice
out.
because when I try to visualize this situation, I wasn't there, but when I try to visualize it, I will think that in those situations, sometimes I think that, what if he's speaking to me? It's like, even if I haven't done it.
Everyone else is like this.
It's like,
I know, that's right. I mean, it was incredible. Like, he asked a really obvious question that we all ask ourselves at different times, but we would never ask it out loud because it's a question you meditate on. Like how can I be more patient and loving with my family and stuff like that. He had just spent the last 2 weeks in great detail telling us how to do that. And then this guide asks this, and I remember when I'm sure Chucky had the same reaction. When he asked me, thought, oh my God,
everyone puts their head down.
How could you even ask that question? And that's when Rinpoche says, I mean, he wasn't, he was displeased. He was definitely displeased, And I thought I had been giving you the answer to this question for the past 2 weeks, and so, it was really.
I mean, I think that sometimes you see in general when you in general when you see it sometimes in what happens with, for example, monks and nuns that disrobe. In no way I think that they're considered to be outcasts or shunned. So I remember that Taisiddha Rinpoche was asked at one point about monks and nuns that disrobe. So you ordain people and then they disrobe, then doesn't he, or kind of there is some gross misbehavior or what have you, so does it make him angry and so forth? And he said the only thing that you can say is alas. They did not make it. But still, when you look at still the inclusion of those people in the community, there's no hard feeling. When you look at, for example, His Honest Dalai Lama and Thupten Jinpa, for example. It seems that Now, so you could say that there is I would not say that they're disrobing. No, I would guess that was something that was displeasing to the teachers, but still, in a sense of kind of, alas, this is not what I wanted them to do, but without anger, without hatred, without
Well, I know when I was at Vajrayana Institute, and given that there weren't many ordained Sangha around, when one just wrote and people said something, I'd say, well, she was ordained for whatever it was, 3 years or 4 years and 7 months longer than you. You know, if you look at it from the other side, that they maintained the vows purely for that period of time rather than the other side.
Yeah.
Anyway, that just,
Yeah. I mean, that's it. Yeah. Are you going to go on, or have we run out of time? No, we haven't run out of time. Are you going to go on with that?
Yeah, there's still a few points here. So then it says that at the very beginning, Buddhas, on the path of accumulation, the path of preparation, the text says that they've practiced equalizing, exchanging self with others. Then it says, when you reach the path of seeing and realized ultimate reality in which self and others are the same, he claimed all sentient beings from himself in a manner devoid of duality, which means that when he got to the path of seeing and understood or realized emptiness perceptually, so that all of us are exactly the same in emptiness, particularly so that the nature of our mind is exactly like the nature of the Buddha's mind, empty of inherent existence. So in that sense, you can say that claiming other sentient beings to himself or making other sentient beings as his very self is from the viewpoint of ultimate reality. From the viewpoint of ultimate reality, all of us are the same in emptiness.
Yeah.
So then it says, when having discarded the two veils
What's that? That's my question. The two veils.
The two obscurations.
What? Anger and...
No, afflictive obscurations and cognitive obscurations.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So having discarded the two veils, afflictive and cognitive obscurations, together with associated habitual tendencies, which means imprints. So getting angry of afflictive obscurations, afflictive consciousnesses, the seeds and the imprints all together, he achieved Buddhahood. When that is, then it becomes a little bit complicated. We're just going to simplify that. He says, the Dhammadhatu, the object, and promoted wisdom, the subject, mingled like water with water into a single taste, free from all duality, and there was not the slightest trace of dualistic phenomena. Buddha and Buddha field were apprehended as a single whole. So if I summarize this section according to my understanding, and of course there could be different interpretation of that, but I think that what it says is that at the end, when Buddha attained the state of Buddhahood and perceptually realized all phenomena, he also realized phenomena in a non-dualistic manner. So the sameness or the equality of all phenomena is having the same taste in emptiness. Which means that all phenomena are the same in emptiness. Actually, that's basically saying the same thing. So then it says the enlightened body, speech, and mind. Then it becomes even nicer. It says the enlightened body, speech, and mind of the Buddha embraces the whole of space wherever it extends. So the Buddha's mind, we said that the Buddha's mind pervades everything. Since the Buddha's mind pervades everything, there you will also find the Buddha's body. After all, the Buddha has a combination of a unification of body and mind, which is different to our combination of body and mind. Like, for example, if I think of South America, my mind, so to speak, can be in South America, but I'm here. My body is here. For a Buddha, it works differently. A Buddha has a union of body and mind. And a Buddha's mind pervades all phenomena. Wherever the Buddha's mind is, there you will also find the Buddha's body. I think that this explanation works even better or more, gets into a more subtle point from the viewpoint of Highest Yoga Tantra when we speak of the illusory body. So from the viewpoint of Highest Yoga Tantra, the illusory body and the clear light mind, the clear light mind are the same entity. The illusory body is made of the winds of the clear light mind. So where you will find the mind of a Buddha, you will also find the body of Buddha. Also, I think that from the viewpoint of the sutra system, we mentioned before body in the nature of mind, right? So right from the path of seeing, a Buddha attains the body in the nature of mind. So you could say that wherever the mind of a body is, there you'll also find the mind of Buddha. But without getting into the technicalities, I think that the point in that statement is that when we think of everything around us, and including ourselves, other people, a Buddha's mind knows all of us. And therefore, a Buddha's mind is here. A Buddha's mind pervades us in that sense. And therefore, the Buddha is present also within us. A Buddha is present within our mind. That is linked up with the teachings on Buddha nature. So it is said that in Buddha nature, it says that because the Dhammakaya, so Maitreya's text Unsurpassed Continuum provides reasons for explaining why all sentient beings have a Buddha nature. And one of the arguments that Maitreya presents is saying that the Dhammakaya prevents all phenomena. It prevents the minds of sentient beings. Pervades. It pervades the mind of sentient beings. And because it pervades our mind, also the enlightened activities of Buddha are there. Because it is there. Any virtue that we have in our mind, you can say that that is an enlightened activity of the Buddha. It doesn't mean to say that we have no free will or we cannot act by ourselves. Of course, we can decide what to do, but a proof for having a Buddha nature is that the Buddha's, one of the reasons is that the Dhammakaya prevents also our minds. So,
don't you from that way see the virtue that we do as because it's in sync with what the Buddha taught, then it is the Buddha's enlightened activities, which can be our own, like that's where it links up with your own Buddha nature. So you sort of
I think
like somebody out there's coming in.
Possessing you.
Possessing you.
Yeah, it's not that you're possessed by Buddha and therefore kind of you're acting in a virtuous way. Kind of the Dhammakaya, you can say that the Dhammakaya is like the Dhammakaya pervades your mind.
Yeah. The Dhammakaya.
You're acting in a way that accords with the Dhammakaya. And therefore any activities is also pervaded, you could say, by the Dhammakaya. But let's look at the way that Khenpo Kumpa says that. He says, as the text declares, beings dwell wherever space pervades, and are all embraced by the enlightened body, speech, and mind, which means that wherever the Buddha body, speech, and mind is, or whatever sentient beings are, you'll also have the Buddha's body, speech, and mind. Therefore, from the very beginning, beings are never separated from the enlightened mind. Knowing this, those great beings who have attained enlightenment take beings as themselves. Right, so think of, it's all in relation to verse 126 that says again, there is no doubt that those with the nature of compassion regard all migrating beings as themselves. These very ones seen in the entity of sentient beings are the protectors themselves, right? So it accords with what the commentary says. There are, as it says here, beings dwell wherever space pervades. They are all embraced by the enlightened body, speech, and mind. Therefore, from the very beginning, beings are never separated from the enlightened mind. Knowing this, great beings who have attained enlightenment take beings as themselves. For there is not the slightest difference between what is called Buddha and what is called beings, in that all are endowed with the Buddha nature. I mean, Buddhas do not have Buddha nature. We have Buddha nature. Buddhas that have become Buddhas have the essence kaya. We have Buddha nature, the emptiness of our own mind, emptiness that is currently together with stains. But once those stains, which are adventitious, are purified, the nature of our mind will become the essence kaya. So there's no slightest difference between what is called Buddha and what is called beings, in that all are endowed with that Buddha nature. The Buddhas are totally free from apprehending duality between self and others. For if they were to apprehend this duality, it would follow that they had not realized the absence of self. So if a Buddha would have mistaken dualistic appearances, such as, for example, appearances of true existence, if they grasp a true existence, they would not have realized selflessness. So of course, they have realized selflessness. They're free from duality. They're free from mistaken dualistic appearances. So therefore, as explained earlier, those who appear to deluded perceptions as being possess the same nature as Buddhas, the protectors. So like we said before, our Buddha nature, which means the emptiness of our own mind, is the same in nature as the emptiness of a Buddha's mind. Since they are pervaded by the Sugatagaba, or by Buddha nature, they are indeed the Buddhas of the future. For the sutra says all beings are permeated by the Sugatagaba, the Tathagatagaba. So what this statement says is that since all of us have Buddha nature, then rather than, we can call ourselves sentient beings, but we can also call ourselves future Buddhas.
Buddhas to be.
Yeah, Buddhas to be, future Buddhas, Buddhas to be. So then getting angry at each other is getting angry at Buddha to be. So it's putting a different perspective of why we should be patient, right? If you get angry, if you harm someone, you're getting angry with a future Buddha.
It's really encouraging you to take that long-term approach, isn't it? You know, I mean, that's what I've been really enjoying about this whole chapter. It's just, you know, point after point after point after point on different ways to think about patient and to be patient. And, you know, just in the last while, that has been, you know, Geshe has been saying the same. We need to take the long-term perspective.
Yeah.
So important. So would you say, Carson, verse 126 is a very pithy way of exchanging self for others. It really puts it rather beautifully there.
Well, I think when it is explained, it is exchanging self with others is explained on two levels. On a conventional level, where you exchange your self-cherishing attitude with an attitude of cherishing others. On an ultimate level, you can exchange self with others in a way that you realize that your nature and others' nature, I mean, the final nature, emptiness, is not different.
Yeah.
And since it is not different, you can say that it is the same. And therefore, in exchanging self with others, you can think of I'm others in a sense that my nature is the same as others' nature.
Yeah.
So there's not that separatedness that we hold normally between ourselves and others.
It's a beautiful concept, beautifully put. And it really comes down to that, you know, that Hindu expression, all is one and one in all.
All in one and one in all. There was also a, sorry? Yeah. All for one and one for all.
It's a completely different.
No, but this is.
All is one and one in all.
Yeah, no, it's the same.
No, it's not.
No. It's all for one and one for all is very different.
Yes, very. Thank you, Charlie.
So I summarized the points from this verse in the tutorial note. So Buddhas regard all beings as the very self. Now, before becoming Buddhas, they practice equalizing and exchanging self with others. When reaching the path of seeing and realizing emptiness perceptually, they see the sameness of self and others in their ultimate reality. When they reach enlightenment, they see in a non-dual manner the ultimate nature of all phenomena, including self and others. Now, when the state of Buddhahood is attained, the Buddha's mind pervades all phenomena. Since the body and mind of Buddha are united, the Buddha's mind is present wherever his mind is. Therefore, the Buddha's body and mind pervade all sentient beings, all of us. There is not even the slightest difference between sentient beings' Buddha nature and the Buddha's essence kaya. Since beings are pervaded by this Buddha nature, they are future Buddhas. Since sentient beings are future Buddhas, it is not suitable to treat them badly. It is not appropriate to get angry with them. So this is the point that Shantideva is making here in this long discourse.
What, for all of the chapter?
No, in verse 126.
Yes.
Just read that last paragraph out, 126 in Manjushu's reading. It's this, it just looks like.
So it says, since It demonstrates both by scripture. Is this what you mean?
Yeah.
Since it demonstrated by both by scripture and reasoning that beings are indeed Buddhas, how it is possible for us not to treat them with respect. As much as we reverence the Buddhas, we must also reverence beings, for there is not much thing as Buddhahood if beings are abandoned. It's a really nice presentation. So let's just read again through this verse.
It says it all. There is no such
Yeah.
thing as Buddhahood if beings are abandoned.
Yeah, there's no Buddha. There's no Buddhahood if beings are abandoned. And I think that we had in recent weeks we had discussions around the elections in the US, or other political discussions, climate discussions, and so forth. So it's really important to think about it from this perspective, because if we abandon even a single sentient being, now we can condemn someone's behavior, but if we abandon them, there is no Buddhahood, right? So there's no doubt that those with the nature of compassion regard all these migrating beings as themselves. These very ones seen in the entities of sentient beings are the protectors themselves. Why then do I not respect them? All right, so it seems that we have to leave it here for now, and we haven't spoken of the benefits, but I guess that we can do it next week. So it will. Thank you.
Yeah, very good.
All right, let's do some serious dedication. Due to this virtue, I quickly become a Guru Buddha and lead all transmigratory beings without exception to that state. May the precious Supreme Buddha, Chitta Mighty upon arise, may that reason not decline but increase more and more. In this land encircled by snowy mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. You uphold the subdues more way yourselves in the bountiful birth of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Marginat's victorious doctrine. O masterfully accomplishes magnificent praise, honoring the three jewels. Protector of myself and others, your disciples, please live long. Happens.
Yeah, it only happened at the beginning and the end. There's something weird about that.
Well, as is said in the 7-point mind training, there are two activities important: one at the beginning, one at the end. You covered all your bases, all your bases.
Don't think that's an important.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care down there in Sydney.
It's not so hot. It's good. It was warm today, but not too hot. It's very pleasant.
We'll see you one day. They'll open it one day.
One of these days, I'll get back up there.
When you come back to
Buddha willing.
Really, is it clear? Are the borders still closed, or what's the goal?
No, we're close to Greater Sydney.
Okay.
People in Greater Sydney, which is about 5 million of us down here.
Yeah, that's right. You're very dangerous, 5 million.
So are you in Greater Sydney, or
But
where?
they're wide open to South Australia, or they were wide open to people from Adelaide up until very recently.
Yeah, they're not open to them.
So you've probably got all the people from Adelaide.
No.
And congratulations, Queensland, on winning the State of Origin.
We're wearing the team's colour.
Yeah, we're wearing teams.
I was cheering them on last night myself. That's the Queenslanders, of course, being a Queenslander.
Well, we would expect no other than.